Hey guys, thanks for coming back and joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. This is a podcast for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. So, if you're a regular listener, glad to have you back. If you're new to the show, thanks for joining us. We appreciate having you here. So, in our episode today, we're going to talk about 10 tips to overcome limiting beliefs. Real quick, you notice background's different. This is a good example. Away from the studio, but didn't want to miss a podcast episode. So we are making the best of the situation and recording some episodes while we're on the road. And you'll see our normal background here probably in the next couple of episodes. But appreciate you joining us. So, overcoming limiting beliefs. So I think the way to start this is there used to be, once upon a time, there was a Saturday Night Live skit that was Stuart Smalley. And it was a character that was played by Al Franken, who went on to become a senator from Minnesota after he left the show, among other things. And he played a character called Stuart Smalley, and he was kind of a milquetoast kind of a guy. And he would sit in front of the mirror and give himself affirmations. Well, they had Michael Jordan host the show one time, and he appeared on the Stuart Smalley show. And it turned into a very funny skit because Michael Jordan has never lacked for confidence and found a way very early in his life to overcome limiting beliefs and went on to do some pretty big stuff. But Stuart Smalley had Michael Jordan sit in front of the mirror and tell himself positive affirmations, which was very funny because Michael Jordan could not stay in character. So he started laughing. And the one that really got him was when Stuart Smalley had Michael Jordan look in the mirror and say, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." So it was very funny. I recommend Googling it or YouTubing it and watching the clip because it's a very funny clip. With that said, limiting beliefs in the real world are no joke. So that was a funny skit, but limiting beliefs really can hold us back from accomplishing our goals, from even starting to try to accomplish our goals. And so we have to figure out what's causing those limiting beliefs and get them out of our heads or find ways to deal with them when they do pop into our heads. Because we've built these beliefs up in our own minds. They might be true, they might not be true. But I can tell you that it's not going to do you any good either way if you allow them to exist and don't confront them and learn how to change those limiting beliefs into positive beliefs that allow you to go after what you want. So that's what these 10 tips are about. We always try to give practical, everyday, real world tips instead of, we don't want this to turn into a bitch session or a pity party. No one should feel sorry for you. You should not feel sorry for yourself. You should take control of your life and you should go after what you want. And it's that basic. And the beauty is you get to decide. Maybe it's career. Maybe it's personal stuff. Maybe it's a goal. Maybe you want to be a really good rock climber. Maybe you want to be a really good poet. Maybe you want to be a really good golfer. I don't know what it is, but you get to choose. But you can't have limiting beliefs holding you back from going after what you want. So with that said, let's dive into it here. The number one tip is identify your limiting beliefs. And it's number one for a reason, because like any problem or challenge, if you don't know or you refuse to recognize that there's a problem or a challenge, it makes it very, very difficult to deal with that problem or challenge. It's difficult to come up with solutions or coping mechanisms or tools to work around problems or challenges if you refuse to acknowledge that they exist. So, you've got to notice the negative patterns in your thoughts and write them down. So what does a negative thought or pattern look like? God, why am I this stupid? There's one. There's one I'm sure we all say to ourselves. How could I allow this to happen? I'm so dumb. I can't believe this. I let this happen. Not going to work. Not useful, not productive, not solvable. We can't think like that. So when that pops in your head, write it down. Why did you think that way? What were the circumstances that led you to think that? Were you with a particular group of people? Were you in a particular situation? Was it a particular time of day? Was there something that triggered that thought in your head? Write it down, because if you don't recognize the patterns that bring these things into your head, it's really difficult to short circuit them either before or when they happen so you can get yourself back on a better path. So that's what, like, I'm so stupid. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth this. I don't deserve this. Those are all negative limiting beliefs. And you've got to figure out what is driving those thoughts before you can deal with them. So, number 2, this is step 2, challenge your beliefs. By the way, not a 10-step process. We were given 10 tips, but the first couple of tips happen to kind of feed into each other. They are a decent path to follow if you're trying to solve these problems. So, challenge your beliefs. Ask yourself if your beliefs are rooted in fact or in fear. And I think if you do that and you're honest with yourself, if you look for evidence that what is driving your beliefs, you're going to find that a lot of it is fear and not fact. So even if let's say you come from a bad family, let's say that there was alcoholism in your family and you had a tough childhood. That's tough, but it happened. It's not going to unhappen. There's no Wayback Machine. You can't go way back to before these things happen and stop them from happening. Doesn't exist other than in the Back to the Future movies, which are great movies, by the way. But that's not real world. So what is it about that is still holding you back? Like you got to get past that. You've got to figure out what it is that's driving those negative thoughts. And why do you think that? Simply because you were born into a family? So what? Lots of people were born into tough families. Howard Schultz, the guy that bought Starbucks, was a tiny chain in Seattle, and Howard Schultz bought it and turned it into a huge empire. And Howard Schultz lived in a family where both of his parents were drug addicts and multiple times were brought back to life by paramedics. And Howard Schultz had to call 911 to save his parents' lives from drug overdoses. So he overcame limiting beliefs. You can too. So you've got to challenge your beliefs. Are you just afraid? Or are there really, truly obstacles or barriers that you have to overcome to try to accomplish what you want to accomplish? And I think most of the time, if you look at that, you're going to recognize, hey, I'm letting fear control my thought process. I'm letting fear control my decision-making process, and I'm going to stop doing that. Number 3, replace negative thoughts. So use positive self-talk to replace negative self-talk. Tell yourself you're strong enough to handle this. Tell yourself, I got this. I can get this done. And you deserve to build a good life. Everyone deserves to build a good life. There is no, I'm not good enough. I'm not worth this. I don't deserve this. That is negative self-talk. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is short-circuiting the things that could go well in your life before they ever happen because you're afraid. And you've got to replace those with, yes, I can get this done. I'll find a way to make this happen. I've got confidence in myself and my abilities. Even if you don't have it, tell yourself that in your head. Because if you repeat something over and over and over enough, you'll start to believe it. Doesn't matter what it is. So this is a really good coping mechanism, a really good tool. I'm going to go get this guy. I'm going to go get this done. I'm going to go get this goal. I'm going to get it done. I've got this. Just repeat it to yourself. Even if you don't believe it, keep repeating it to yourself. I'm telling you, that repetition in your head will work. Next, take small steps. Break your goals down into smaller steps. And when you accomplish those smaller steps, recognize them. Celebrate them a little bit. So we talked before in an episode about what the path looks like from where you are to where you want to be. And the analogy we used was if you looked at a flight pattern from Los Angeles to New York, and you looked at it from 100,000 feet, it would look like a straight line from Los Angeles to New York. It's not a straight line. During that whole flight, the pilots are constantly making adjustments based on weather, based on wind, based on altitude, based on other air traffic. And so it's a series of small little tweaks that allows them to get from Los Angeles to New York safely, correctly, and on time. Do the same thing with your goals. So if you're here and you want to get to here, figure out what 10, 15, 22, however many steps it takes to get that done. We would argue it's going to take a lot of small steps, not one big or two big steps. It's repeating the same thing over and over again that generally brings the biggest success, finding a good way to get something done and then repeating that process over and over again. So break it down into small steps, take those steps consistently, and give yourself some credit when you do those things. Because again, that positive self-talk, that affirmation or the confirmation that you get from that success will help you continue down the path. It's the little things that you have to recognize. Little changes lead to big results, and that's where you want to get to. Next, seek support. So Surround yourself with positive people. Consider working with a coach or a mentor. Maybe you've got a great group of friends and you can talk to your friends and they can help you through it. Maybe not. Maybe it's worth going out and talking to a coach about your business or your personal challenges or whatever the case may be. Maybe you need to see a therapist. Nothing wrong with seeing a therapist. There's a lot of value in getting someone else to help you with your problems that is qualified, that can help you change your patterns and your thought processes, limit the limiting beliefs. I was trying to think of a different way to say that, but that's probably the best way to say that. And deal with those things. So be around positive people. Be around people who are trying to do the same things you're doing. You see this a lot with professional athletes where they came from a tough background, they make it, they've got a bunch of money and a bunch of resources, and they continue to surround themselves out of this, I would argue, misguided sense of loyalty to the people they grew up with. Well, if those people want to change and live in the same world that you're living in now, great. But if they don't want to change and they want to just take the money or the resources or the notoriety or whatever the benefits are of your new life and apply them in their old world, that's not a good place to be. You don't want to surround yourself with those people. Seek the support of people that want the same things you want, that want to be successful the same way you want to be successful. And successful, we're not talking about just financial, and financial's fine. There's nothing wrong with pursuing financial goals, but personal, emotional, relationship goals. Like you should have people around you that share those same attributes that you have. That's who you want to surround yourself with. Next tip, practice self-compassion. Don't be so hard on yourself. There's nothing wrong with pushing yourself. There's nothing wrong with holding you accountable. It's one of the things we preach a lot on this channel. With that said, you have to do that in a constructive way so that you don't send yourself the wrong direction and wind up with a bunch of negative thoughts in your head, and it becomes self-defeating at that point. So be good to yourself. It's okay if you screw up. You've just got to pick yourself up and get back after it. What you can't do is beat yourself up, obsess about mistakes you've made in the past, obsess about things in the past that you wish were different. Not helpful. You have no control over it. It is wasted time. It is wasted energy. And you're going to wind up right back in the same spot you are now, only with less energy because you spent it all on these mental gyrations you go through to beat yourself up over things you don't have control over anymore. The bell has been rung. The toothpaste is out of the tube. It's time to compartmentalize that, learn from it, apply those learnings, and move forward. That's all you can do at that point. So be decent to yourself. Don't be so damn hard on yourself. Reframe your beliefs. Once you identify the root of a belief, you can replace it with a more helpful one. So let's stick with our I came from a tough family narrative that creates limiting beliefs in our head. At some point, you get to come to terms with the fact that, hey, that's how I grew up. It is what it is. I can't change it. I can't impact it. So I'm not going to let it affect my future anymore. So once you identify that root, you have to find a way, find a mechanism by which when that thought pops into your head, you quickly translate it to a, hey, you know what? Growing up in a tough house made me strong, made me resilient, it made me resourceful. So even though that was a tough place to grow up, it actually gave me a lot of positive attributes that I now have as an adult, and I can take out into the real world and get after the things that I want to get after. So really, it was kind of a benefit to grow up the way that I grew up because now I'm kind of scrappy. Now I've got resources. Now I've got problem-solving skills. I've got coping mechanisms. I've got mental fortitude from the way I grew up, and I can apply that to anything in the world I want. So reframe that belief. When it pops in your head, figure out a way to reframe it. Create new beliefs. Choose new beliefs that you can get behind. Say, hey, you know what? Upbringing doesn't matter because I've got the resources I've got now. I'm in the world I'm in now. And I've worked hard to put myself in this world. And I'm going to take advantage of it. Maybe you think people are bad. So change that to, you know what? I'm going to think people are good until they prove me wrong, until they prove to me that they are bad. I'm going to have a different belief than the one that I have now. So create new beliefs, find different ways to think about things. Don't get stuck in like tunnel vision and really being focused on this is the only way. There's one way and it's the only way. That's rarely the case. Number 9, examine your beliefs. So ask if your beliefs are they true? Are they real? Like I see this a lot with government programs. People say, well, the government program is there to help people. Okay, is it actually helping people? Does it work? Like we've spent a lot of money on poverty. We've spent a lot of money on homelessness. Is it worked? Is it getting better? Doesn't look like it to me. So maybe we need to think about it a different way. But if we don't examine that belief, like I want to help people too. I want the good things for people. I want people to lift themselves up and I want to help people lift themselves up. But sometimes the solution is not giving them stuff and making it easy and handing them checks. A lot of times it's giving them resources and saying, hey, there's the ladder. We've provided the ladder. No one's going to push you up that ladder. You got to climb. And if you examine your beliefs, I think what you may find is, you know what? I've believed a lot of things that aren't necessarily true. And I've created kind of this little prison in my head that I can't get myself out of. And it's self-inflicted. You are the one that has created that prison. You are the one that has created those limiting mindsets, those limiting beliefs, and you are the one that can let yourself out. It's really that basic. So examine your beliefs. Really gut check what it is you believe in and what you think, and ask yourself again, is this real? Or is this just my emotions screwing with my head? And I think a lot of times what you're going to find is your emotions screwing with your head. And then the last one, challenge your thoughts. When old thoughts and behaviors reappear, consciously respond to them and modify them. Like when it pops into your head, recognize it right away. Ah, shit, here's that thought again that I've been thinking. I'm going to get it out of my head. I grew up in a tough environment. Oh, that's right. Now, being in a tough environment has actually made me a really resourceful, strong, capable adult. So that's actually a good thing. Yes, that's right. So really challenge yourself to think through those situations and recognize those behaviors when they happen, short circuit them as quickly as possible, and pivot to a more positive, productive mindset. Because when you get there, you're going to find that you're really, really hitting on all cylinders. You're going after the things that you want to go after. You have confidence in yourself. That doesn't mean braggadocio. That doesn't mean outwardly proclaiming, I'm so good, I'm so tough, I'm so smart, I'm so strong. If that works for you, great, that's fine. But I think for most people, they're not comfortable with that. They don't want to be that way. That quiet inner confidence is what you're looking for. And that's really that mental spot you're trying to get yourself to, because you can be really, really effective when you get yourself into that mental spot. So, look, guys, those are our 10 tips for today. Hope you found those helpful. Limiting beliefs, like those are self-inflicted wounds. In soccer, when you score on your own goal, it's called an own goal. And limiting beliefs are definitely own goals in the real world in life. And so we've given you 10 tips here to identify them, challenge them, and change those limiting beliefs, knocking down those barriers so that you can get after the things you want to get after in life. Hope you guys found this useful and helpful. Don't forget, James puts it up over here every day, but don't forget to head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. We've got all of our podcast episodes on there. We've got a newsletter that we publish every weekday you can subscribe to on there. And then we've got links to all of the other social media sites on there as well. So also don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Really appreciate you guys coming back and checking us out. Everybody have a great week, and we will see you next time.